Welcome back to tonight's CNN Facebook Town Hall. We want to take a moment to discuss the psychological impact of a virus that's made close contact and the comfort it can bring out of the question.
You know, coping with the stress of a disease or even the threat of it, that's an important part of how one fights illness itself. The question, though, how to do that, especially with children. So joining us is psychologist and author Dr. Gretchen Schmelzer. Welcome.
Dr. Schmelzer, you and I spoke last week after I read a piece that you wrote, a blog post that you did, and it was really, it talks so much about how at times like the need for selflessness is so important. And so many of the things you say really resonated with me. And we talked about citizenship and the importance of community. Can you just talk a little bit about what you wrote and what you want people to think about?
Yeah, I wrote that piece to help people understand that you can have a heroic action that doesn't look heroic. that by staying home, by not going to the store. Last week, people were still moving around a lot. That it was really important for people to take their individual behavior and see it as an act of citizenship, to see it, the larger collective, to see the we.
To see the we in all of this.
Yes. And to actually see the bigger picture.
I really, you know, Anderson, you and I have talked about that a lot. I mean, we are all in this together. How I behave affects you, how you behave affects me, and it is a larger purpose. I have a question, Doctor, about this. You know, we're getting further into this crisis, obviously, in the United States. I have, 3 kids at home. People have been home now for a number of days. They're social, physical distancing. Yeah. It's starting to settle in that, we're in this for a while. This isn't a snow day. It's a season of this. What should we be looking for in terms of mental health in our family and our friends?
It's a great question. I think the first thing to take into account is that each kid, the ages of kids means they need different things, right? The group I'm more worried about are teenagers right now. Teenagers are supposed to be leaving their homes and engaging with their peers, and they're supposed to be trying out new things, and they're going to get less of that right now. And so they need to find ways to feel their impact and to stay connected to the groups that are important to them. The middle-aged kids, the 7 to 13-year-olds, they're used to doing things where they are really learning and mastering things. Those were your soccer players and the flute players, and they've lost all of that right now. So they really need a chance to settle in and find ways to keep learning, to keep mastering things, and maybe all those things are brand new for this period of time. And the younger kids actually are the group I'm less worried about. They're actually getting more time with their parents than they usually get.
Dr. Schmelzer, we've got a couple of questions from our audience. Jackie Stevens sent us this video from Idaho Falls, Idaho. It's a little bit fuzzy, but I think it's powerful. Let's take a look.
How do I explain to my timid, easily frightened 3-year-old grandson that he cannot touch, hug, hold, or be kept by his beloved grandmother right now? My grandson recently had another grandparent pass away, and it affected him deeply. How do we explain this to him? I am 65 with underlying health problems, and my husband is 82.
Doctor, what's your advice?
My advice is to explain that for right now, Grandma needs a special bubble. And doesn't mean that they can't stay connected, that they can't talk, that they can't read to each other online. I don't know what the physical distance is, but young children can understand that there's a way to stay connected even if they can't be held. I think it's hard for both parties, so I think also it's important for the grandparent to give permission to the young children and help them see that they can feel the love coming back, that they have special waves, they have special winks, that they draw each other pictures. There's different ways of staying connected.
I think another thing, Doctor, it's so unique about this. This is not a single traumatic event like a tornado or a hurricane or a fire or something like that. I mean, you're dealing with things that are going to be changes that are big changes for a period of time. I mean, maybe a long period of time. So how do you, again, assess and manage your own mental health? I mean, it's a different time frame of things that we're now looking at.
Well, I think it's actually, I would encourage people to find coping strategies that help them feel less stressful. Some of those coping strategies might not be something they want to keep for the rest of their lives, but will help them through this period of time. Being more optimistic, or being able to separate themselves from the feelings sometimes, the way surgeons do. It's important that people allow themselves to cope the way they need to. And this is essentially a repeated trauma. This is going to go on for a while. And so people are going to adjust their behaviors, and they're going to have to unlearn some things when we come out of this.
You've also compared what this country is going through and what a lot of people are going through to grief in a way.
Yes.
In what way?
Well, first of all, I think I've watched it over this last week. People are going through the stages of grief. There was the week of like, well, no, it's not a big problem, to, well, I can do this, but I can't do that, to, I really saw earlier this week, acceptance, that people almost were crying, they were depressed, they had taken in the gravity of this situation. And now people are trying to figure out how they're going to live in this new normal for a while. And I think we really need to help people understand they have the resources to do it. They haven't had to do it before, but everybody's got a lot of strengths. And spouses and partners need to talk to each other about what strengths can they bring to each other during this time.
Dr. Gretchen Smeltzer, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much.